Fourth session of a panel discussion that we have organizing our association, Bridge, an NGO, Tirana based. We started with this series of panel discussions in spring when we had two sessions online. It was called Bridge Forum. It was with the support of Regional Center for Cooperation. Now, in October, we had another session, also online, with the support of the Association for the support of civil society, this Albanian organization. We thought that this session could also be online. This was initially the idea, but thanks to the Center for Openness and Dialogue, we had the possibility to meet here and to discuss together about the issue of this panel, which is European integration and regional integration. In this session, we have beside the support of CODE and also the Center for Openness and Dialogue and the Agency for Support of Civil Society, we have a partnership like in the previous sessions, a partnership very valuable with the International Association of Students of Economic Science and Commerce, and I thank them again for their help and the big job that they did for the partnership and that they are doing. Now, as I mentioned, the subject of this session is the European integration and regional integration. It coincides with the summit, with the European summit that 2 days ago took place in Tirana. We didn't know when we fixed the date. We didn't know, even nobody knew, there was no idea, no decision about such a summit at that time when we scheduled our panel discussions. But it's a significant coincidence, a meaningful coincidence, I think, that Tirana was for one day the capital of Europe. Now, almost 30 years ago, for quite different reasons, the capital of Europe was Sarajevo. This region had suffered several wars, one after another, during the 90s and also until 1999. And very hostility, hatred among ethnic groups, ethnic nationalism, ethnic cleansing, genocide. This was the panorama of the Balkans at that time. Now the situation is relatively better. There is peace, there is more democracy. I would say that full democracy, but more than it was at that time. There is no authoritarian regime at this moment, no dictatorship like the Milosevic at that time. And this is also thanks to that Brussels did, that the European Union did for the region and within the region, with all its shortcomings and problems, but it was an important contribution. So two things: the intervention that Brussels made for peace in the region and for democracy on the one hand, and the horizon of the perspective of integration in the European Union for these countries, which is a motivation for them. These two things in common that are related with the European project had very fruitful results, I would say, for the Western Balkans. Now, to talk for this topic for European integration, and in parallel, related to it, regional integration, we have invited two panelists which I think are very special. One is Anne Barcela. She is Executive Director of the Albanian Institute for International Studies, and the head of the European program of that institute. She has been, her formation has been mostly focused on national identities and nationalism, which is a very crucial problem, has been and still is in the region. And also Robert Lajozowski, he works in the Macedonian government for intercultural dialogue and interculturalism and the coherence in society within a society through the differences in the society. He has been Minister of Culture of Macedonia, but he comes from another field. He comes from culture, like journalist, like a publisher. And the first time that I met him, it was in 2008 in Skopje. He was a publisher, in fact. Then, all of a sudden, I see that he becomes Minister of Culture. How it happened? Well, it was his activism in civil society, the social movements in Macedonia that contributed to put an end to the corrupt government of that time and to hybrid regime that existed at that time. I think this. I think we made a good choice, and I hope you will see the result, and we would hear people who are the two persons who are very competent to talk about this subject. After their presentations, we can have questions and answers, a dialogue with you. So I leave the floor to Anne Barcela first.
Thank you so much, Bashkim, for the invitation. Jesse, good morning, and wishing you all the best on this National Day of Youth. It's your day. And I am very happy, actually, and I feel privileged to be in this audience because this is one of the most pro-European audiences in all of Europe. We know from our surveys that are done every year, not only in Albania, but in all the Western Balkan region, that Albania and Kosovo are the most pro-European countries in the region, such as North Macedonia, Montenegro, and in lower figures in Serbia. But in general, the support of young people for European integration and regional integration is quite high. And this support should not be taken for granted, because even in some European countries which are already members of the EU, if you do a survey or a poll, you might find surprising numbers of skepticism. And I believe this support is a very crucial asset, is something that we need to work with, because support means also acceptance of difficult reforms that are done for European integration. What is the root of this support for us, for example, especially in Albania? The root of the support is actually a dream of ending the transition. It's what was written in those slogans in the protests, that we want Albania to be like the rest of Europe. It is a very symbolic and important thing. It's not just about trying to become as prosperous or trying to have good living standards as the European Union countries, but it's also about having the same shared values. So this is important for us to remember, that this is actually not just a project, not just a process of European integration, but in a certain sense is a collective dream of our country and of our region. And I wanted to treat my talk today in terms of this metaphor, I mean, being between two writers. Unfortunately, I'm not a writer myself, but I try to find a metaphor of a dream, and because I know that all of you are aware that this is taking such a long time, and I know that some people might be reflecting on this, why is it taking such a long time? I thought, how can a dream become true, or if in a frightening scenario, can a dream then become a nightmare? Hemingway has an expression that he says that sometimes things change, and in the beginning they change gradually, but then very suddenly. So I wanted to treat this process of European integration and the time that it is taking, how we can avoid this dream to become a nightmare, because we need a lot of assets of societal resilience in order to avoid this negative scenario. I'm happy actually that I'm sitting also with a colleague from North Macedonia, because in the process of European integration, for many reasons which I don't think we were expecting in the beginning, Albania and North Macedonia are going together, are coupled together. In some years, Albania has become obstacle for North Macedonia. In some other years, what happened in North Macedonia was also an obstacle. And it is a very interesting friendship now between the two countries that has suffered the same pain. But these are the best of friendships, actually. They are very durable, because once you go through hardship together, then you are long-term friends. What has happened in the process of EU integration for our region, but especially for our two countries, Albania and North Macedonia, is that we have had many moments, difficult moments, when this dream could have become a nightmare. We have had moments where political polarization and crisis has stopped the process. Maybe you don't remember, but if you kind of try to look back in some years, Albania's candidate status. The candidate status is a very symbolic thing, but it took us years. Something that should have been done much, much quicker, took a lot of years because of internal problems. And in a certain moment, it did feel like a nightmare. While everything was being done and the reforms had started, then we cannot get this very symbolic milestone to become a candidate country. On the other side, so here was our fault because of our political crisis. Later on, we saw how the EU and certain countries inside the EU became a nightmare for us, with their vetoes, with their delays, and with demands that sometimes did not feel like they were about European standards. Sometimes they felt like double standards. We had moments that we had to be very, very patient. North Macedonia more patient than us because they made bigger sacrifices. We were introduced with new conditions, such as the new methodology, which was the argument that France, one of the countries that is, let's say, not very enthusiastic about enlargement, more focused on widening and deepening the project of the EU itself, posed this request of the new methodology. But what did we observe after they posed this request is that they didn't follow through with this request. They didn't help Macedonia, for example, to get the opening of negotiations so that they could test the new methodology. And as of today, the new methodology is still not tested. Because yes, in July, Albania and North Macedonia opened negotiations, but we are still to see the new methodology in action chapter by chapter. Other nightmares that we have gone through is media coverage about our countries. For Albania, you know that in many European countries, for example the Netherlands or the UK, when it was part of the Union, Albania had a very negative media image. Do we deserve this media image? My answer would be no. We don't deserve it. We have problems, but the way we have been pointed out is not fair. And we have tried to tell this to our European colleagues. And this media coverage often influences the political decisions and often becomes an obstacle for European integration. What does a nightmare really look like? The biggest nightmare is when the European integration becomes devoid of substance, when it becomes an exercise that you have a list of requests and you say, okay, I've done this, check the box. Okay, I've done this, check the box. This is not European integration. This is a to-do list that we do for ourselves on Monday, and then we say, I've accomplished these things, check, check, check. European integration is about real transformation. So that is a nightmare when citizens do not participate in it, when they don't see the achievements, when they don't look for accountability, when they don't feel the real benefits. And as you are young people, which are the fields that you should be looking for? Do we have the same opportunities in education? I sometimes make a joke with people who are skeptical about enlargement, and I say, okay, if you don't want to take us in, at least make the tuition free in the European universities. It's a step that you can do to offer equal access to education. It's about volunteering opportunities. It's about becoming part of European civil society. We are a very active region and we collaborate a lot between each other, but we don't collaborate a lot, us as a region, with European peers. I've been working 12 years in my organization and I've done 100 projects, most of them with the Western Balkan countries, but very few projects with EU think tanks and organizations. So there's a lot more space to explore opportunities for being connected while we are in the process of EU integration. About regional cooperation, what I want to say is that there is a difficulty in the process of regional cooperation, which comes from the fact that regional cooperation is like a circle. It's a request of the EU for us, so you have to collaborate between each other in order to progress in European integration, but at the same time it's supposed to be a byproduct. So as you go together through these reforms and through this cooperation, then peace and prosperity will be produced at a regional level. So I think it's a circle that is supposed to feed itself, like a virtuous circle. The problem is sometimes we have seen it become a vicious circle. So with certain moments that it has not worked, and there are tens or 30 platforms of regional cooperation, but our real commitment in them is really different. There are new ideas, as you know, such as the Open Balkans, which the difference between Open Balkans and the other regional cooperation mechanism is that Open Balkans came from the region. All the others are kind of coming from outside. But you can all see that at least in these years of its functioning, it has been very divisive. So only 3 countries are in, and the 3 countries that are out, they are not just out, they really hate it so far. So we still need to see if this will become a successful, inclusive platform. Another thing that has come back in the region from the point of regional cooperation is the Berlin process. There are high hopes and expectations. I think we expect a lot from Germany because we know it's the engine, economic engine of the European Union. But I have myself a criticism for Berlin process, at least in the first phase. It has these huge projects and ambitions, but most of them remained on paper. So we'll see now in the second phase if they really become something with real benefits. Don't forget, all of you can go to Rome, you can go to other European capitals probably with direct flight. If you try to go to Sarajevo, it's a nightmare. You have to go to Vienna or Belgrade or sometimes even to Istanbul to go to Sarajevo. A country so close to us and part of our region. This is connectivity. This is regional cooperation. When we can really easily reach each other so that we can work with each other. Who are the people that prevent the dream from becoming a nightmare? Is the young people. I know some young people are trying to make this dream come true, but not waiting. They are making their bags and leaving. We know this. Leaving for their studies, for their work. In a certain sense, they are voting with their feet. By leaving, they are voting. They are saying that they are not going to wait anymore. And this is supposed to cause a lot of troubles in the region. But at the same time, I don't want to be pessimistic. There are many reasons in our daily life to be pessimistic, so it's really hard to find some hope. But to live is to resist and to find some hope. So, in the same time, there are many young people who are trying to be active. You are in an organization, other people are in other organizations. You now have some platforms such as RICO, the Regional Cooperation Office for the Youth, or the Western Balkan Fund. Don't forget, these are two things very new for Tirana. Before every regional thing, we had to go to Belgrade or to Athens, even for us as civil society. Now we have two important organizations in Tirana that can facilitate through funds, through exchanges, cooperation between young people in the region, which is so fundamental because it builds the peace that we need, because it creates innovative ideas of how to make our economies work for young people, and also to facilitate the cultural exchanges which are so necessary. So yes, it's been very long since our fathers or brothers or friends were protesting with these slogans that we want Albania to be like the rest of Europe, but the effort goes on, and we should not forget that this is our only plan. We don't have another plan. We need to become part of the European Union, just like we became part of NATO. We are anchored in the West. Our values, our character, our future is anchored in the West. So if it takes a bit more patience to make the dream come true, let's try to see the ways that while we are working to do this, we can see some real benefits for young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I leave the floor to Robert.
Thanks, Bashkin. Thanks to everyone that you come, and thanks to the organizers who gave me this opportunity to be today together with you. So I'm also saying it's great that it's Albanian Youth Day, because it's very important that the young people are involved. In North Macedonia and Skopje today is also a holiday. It's the day of Saint Clement and the day of the literacy. So he was spreading the literacy in 9th century, and I think that because of the work of the literacy is that we are now a modern nation, and we have built our identities, and still literacy is the key to our becoming of a modern and contemporary nation. So to me, youth and education and literacy is the things that are actually what we should hope and care for when we are speaking about European, and then as part of European also regional integration. That's why one of the first care is how we spread our literacy, and how are we actually improving our educational system. And part of the educational system must be this fight for open society, openness and dialogue, as the name of this center is. So for years I was very much protesting against the processes that were ongoing in our country, in our region, and now for the 5 years I have this opportunity to be part of the system. So I have this chance to also try to change it. Well, we will see what will be the results of that. But to come back to our theme, the European integration, I agree with everything that was said by Alba. That was a great speech, and I wouldn't like to repeat or to echo too much of what was said. But the first thing is that when we are speaking about the European Union, we are speaking about the change of how our society functions, the change of the mindset, and how we are doing the things in everyday life and reality. So we could have, let's say, as North Macedonia, we could have become member maybe 20 or 25 years ago, but a formal membership means nothing if we maintain our practices. We see that a lot of countries, new member states or some older member states, are having problems also with democracy, with the rule of law, with the corruption, with organized crime, and etc. etc. So being a formal member in the country and not on a permanent base fight for a better system, and these are the so-called general conditions. So rule of law is a general condition. We can speak about specificities, about specific objectives that we are going to reach. But the real point is that when we speak about European integration, when we speak about Europe, we speak about a civilization and a state of affairs that we aspire to, and this goes through change, because at this moment these are the most prosperous democracies. So this is the vision, this is our dream. And then, yes, we do have a process of integration, and this process is painful, and we have to do a lot of efforts and a lot of struggles and compromises over the way, but this is so. If we compare what is ongoing now, comparing to 5 or 10 or 15 years ago, I think that the message is very clear. We are on the right way. It's a painful process, it's a slow and frustrating process. We are giving efforts, we are ticking the boxes, but yes, we are on the right track. And it is, and I even think that these recent years are much, we do much better. So regional cooperation and good neighborly relationships are one of the first criteria. It means you cannot go together to form an almost federative unit as European is, while you are hating your neighbors and you have totally conflicting identities, history books, textbooks and things like that. So there must be efforts to make, so you cannot be a good with somebody from Brussels if you are not good from somebody from Tirana or somebody from Sofia or somebody from Thessaloniki. You cannot go to a beach side in Valona or in Halkidiki and hate yourself and despising the one you're sharing the sunbed with. So this is crucial. That's why we as a country, but also the whole region, is going together. So you have seen that Vučić and Rama and Kovacevski and former prime ministers are now standing together. Well, it's important that the big players understand that. So even if Prime Minister Vučić is coming from an option which is maybe not that much like the other ones, you see that on the general agenda they are speaking the same language, and they are fulfilling the same objectives that they should. So I think that now the so-called Western Balkan regions, you know, when it started it was a very negative term, but now it's good. So even when at the moment the most pressuring relations are the one in Kosovo, it is still, and we can see, and that's a great thing to be observed, that there is still no capacity for war. There is no capacity for big violence, and we are very happy about that. And I think that this is a new stage and a new achievement. Of course, we should be very much aware of what is the problem and what are the conflicts, and we should provide solutions. But still, I'm positive that the whole region is slowly going in a good direction. So now, but let's say now we have challenges which are then again much bigger if we hate ourselves or love ourselves on the beach, because now you see the summit between EU and Western Balkans was about energy, about the green solutions, about the war in Ukraine. So these are huge issues that we have to deal. And then with our small quarrels, we might look, let's say, funny when we are not facing the real challenge, the threat even of larger scale war on the territory of Europe. So because of that, it's very serious. But at the same time, in our progress report, I guess in you was the same, that aligning with the common European policy and how to say, aligning with the global political messages, the global political alliance, this is where we are the best. So the politicians are actually giving pro-European messages. So in the general policy we are doing good, and now we will see what this screening process and the start of negotiation will look like, as Alba pointed out, that the test period should come, and we are on a way of doing it. Another thing which is very important for me is that finally the politicians and we and the states, they understood that they should listen to their citizens. So European integration and regional integration are not just the buzzwords that are going to ease your days spent in the Monday. You just say European Union and you do whatever you want, or you do nothing, and then the society is crumbling, but we are fine as a political class. I think that now we have stepped over it, because now these regional initiatives, and it is thanks to the demands from the Western Balkans governments, that are leading to provisions. So we understand that yes, we fight for democracy and we fight for a rule of law, and this is one topic, but then better life is the second topic, which is important to our people. So we need a better life and improvements now. If we cannot travel easy, if we cannot find job easy, if we don't have equal opportunities in our society, but also in comparison with other societies, then we are going to flee away to better places. So because of that, I very much like that, let's say, the Open Balkan initiative, but also the Berlin process with this ease of roaming prices is now offering us a better opportunities. And if you see the Open Balkan targets and memorandum of understanding, they are all focused, let's say, of giving equal opportunities to the three countries. So if you go to university in Tirana, you can go there, but then your diploma is valued if you want to work anywhere else in these three countries, and we hope this will extend to the rest of the trees. And then it's very important to work on these very concrete ideas. And again, we have to give opportunities for youth. That is why, let's say, in North Macedonia, but I can see also in the mechanism of Open Balkan, as I said, we put a lot attention to the youth and the youth incentive. So I can quote that we brought a law on youth participation, and now there is a strategy for youth being developed by the Agency of Youth and Sports, and they insist of providing grants, internships, and other supports for the young people in order to reduce their unemployment and to give more opportunities in order to make them stay. When you check the result, it says that the numbers are increasing, and let's say especially we have some fund of innovation, and let's say 50% of the startups are actually done by young people. So these measures are good. What is still the biggest challenge is, as I said, the general rules. So the opportunities should be given to everyone. So that is why we are having one strategy in Skopje, and I am coordinating this strategy, which put the accent of the one society, of the intercultural society, the society that speaks to each other, and to us, the communities inside the country, but it also gives equal opportunities. So the startups and the internships and the provisions should be there, accessible to everyone. If you are discriminated on the basis of party membership, party affiliation, gender belonging, ethnicity, background, whatever, this is not good. And I think that actually our internal fight now is to secure these equal opportunities in the society, so that when a class, a party, a group comes to power, it shouldn't actually keep the resources only to one group and exclude the other, because then this also produces the internal tensions. And the internal tensions are, let's say now, a very serious threat to our society. So maybe now the fight is not between the state of Albania, Albanians and citizens of North Macedonia, ethnic Albanians, ethnic Macedonians, whoever. Now we also have a conflict inside societies that the political parties, and I also heard about an incident caused during the summit here, or let's say in North Macedonia, it's also very tense. It is that now the whole society, the members of a community, should rebuild their common belongings. Now we have, let's say, a division in our countries that is one are pro-European, other are pro-Russian, whatever that might be, which means that we still need now to regain our common goals, and this is that we all want to become part of Europe, and because this is the most advanced society in the modern world. So on that we still have to work a lot. Yeah, I will finish here, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Robert. Before starting the question and answer, the dialogue with you, I would just like to highlight some few things that were said by Alma and Robert. One is the relation between the two processes, European integration and regional integration. This I think was important. Also, how it affects youth, because the process of European integration and becoming part of European Union, and also the third thing that I want to highlight is that being part of European Union, the important thing is not to just formally be part of it, but it's the substance. So that we have to look more at the values than at some levels. So, just I would like to start the dialogue with you. Any question that you might have to the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you. I was listening carefully, and it was amazing how you briefly, let's say, covered these topics that are affecting us daily. My question to you actually is a concern that keeps going in my mind of what will happen when we actually achieve this goal of being part of a European Union. Do you think that youth still in our countries will stay in our countries to help the country even grow further? Or do you think that people will just, okay, now we have the opportunity, now we leave? Because I sense in the Albanian youth especially, not sure about the Macedonian one, that a lot of my friends and people I know are just want to leave Albania as soon as possible and to explore opportunities in the European Union, in the US, or even other places in the world. So I just would like to know your point of view on that. Do you see that people will still voluntarily and willingly stay in Albania or Macedonia, in the Balkans, and work for their countries? in that scenario, or maybe we might face another challenge of having masses of young people just leaving, and then who's going to develop the country? Thank you.
You know, I think that everybody who actually wants to leave now, they are doing all they can. I don't see another scenario where there can be more migration. So just this is but to answer your question is, I don't think that will be a problem. I'll tell you why. Because what has the experience of other countries shown? Or it will be a problem in the short term, and then there will be circulation. Or for example, the experience of Poland. Millions of Polish people migrated, and then a lot of them then came back. Why that will not be as much of a problem as we think? First of all, that there will not be the limitation of the 90 days. There will not be a limitation in the mind of people that I have to go because then I have to be there, and if I come back I cannot go again. No, there will be much more circulation. You can go, you can come back, and if you don't like it, you can go again. Wherever there are limitations and barriers, the desire to go is much more. Whenever there is a possibility to explore, come back, recirculate, then there is much more flow. Also, the idea when you become a European Union member is that you have created an economy that can withstand the pressure from the market of the European Union. And if you have such an economy, now we are speaking in hypotheticals, because we don't know how our society and economy will look like when we become a European Union member state. But the way it should look like, otherwise you don't get accepted, is that you have some sort of conditions and standards, be them economical and social, that would provide incentive for people also to stay. So the assumptions, because this is an hypothetical, is that would provide more circulation rather than massive flight. But as I said in the beginning, we are experiencing the flight already in a certain sense. We started the transition maybe about 4 million, we are now 2.8. We are projected to be at the end of this century by the World Bank 2.1. So in a certain sense, this is the demographic problem is a problem. But the idea when you become a EU member state is that first you will have some conditions that will make you want to stay, and then you'll have some opportunities that make you want to circulate.
Yes, very much the same that you said. I believe that mobility should be the term, the positive term is mobility and not migration. So it shouldn't be one direction, it should be all direction. And this is also what our colleagues, let's say from Sofia or from Warsaw, they're also speaking about. So they say they easily go and work in Germany, in Berlin, they come back for a few years in Sofia under new contract. So the whole mobility of the work conditions and the careers in Europe are diversifying. So we believe that this will there would have been flaws, and we can use the experience of the other countries. But also, as I said, we also have a homework to do at home, and it's more or less what we have already experienced also in our internal migration. So let's say we see, I believe it's here as the same, that Skopje, Tetovo, Kumanovo, these big centers, they're centralizing and they're sucking the population internally from the country. But if we take measures from regional and balanced development, from local development, from increasing our internal infrastructure, for giving opportunities to people to stay in the communities that they live, then the reason to live would be less and less. And this also comes on a European level. But then when we are speaking about European level, there is another possibility which is crucial, and these are these so-called structural and cohesion funds and regional development funds at the European Union that they are developing. So let's say for years Ireland had a struggling economy, and now they have the biggest GDP in the world. So Ireland 50 years back and now it's not the same country. The country has changed. I would like a vision when our poor countries would go in the same direction by giving smart decisions. But then we come again back to our homework, and this is to improve the way how we understand our internal system, our efficacy and effective management of the resources, no corruption, and even workability. So we are a very laissez-faire population. We work some hours in our country. Some people work hard, but some people work some hours. Well, in the modern world, it's really that you work, you are effective, and you produce quality, and then you get a prize for the quality, and then you fight for a fair payment. So these are some basic rules that we have to observe when we speak about our everyday life. Otherwise, people want to experience a lot, but then as they experience, they usually come back to their values or establishes and their life moves around about the quality of life that can be reached even in our own society. So because of that, I believe that, and then of course, we have time to work on it, to create better conditions and to increase the values that we have in our own communities. And then yes, it is that, I was here 5 years back, I was here 7 years back. Each day when I come, Tirana is better. Maybe you will have the same impression for Skopje, but maybe even from Tetovo, or when I travel through the country, even from smaller places. You see that some level of quality and opportunities were created in this period. So we expect, as we go into more integration, we will also work in improving the quality of our own life. So this is the task. Thank you.
Very valuable insights. Thank you.
Other questions?
Hello. So, since I was born, or since people my age were born, we have been living on a circle, on a political circle, social circle, family circle, that it just seems that we have lived with the problems so long that we don't even notice what the problem is. And by the time that passes, that circle always becomes smaller. 90% of my friends are studying abroad. Most of my family members have moved to other cities, mostly to the US. And even if I stay here, which I'm trying to leave, by the way, and I don't even know why, what I would ask myself is, if I stay, where do I start to improve not only my living, but this country, which I don't really know. So when I think about it is, how can I make a difference that really matters? So if you could help me with that question, I would be really thankful.
First, okay, thank you. Well, that's the question we ourselves are asking too. So let's say I have never moved from North Macedonia. I have done a lot of international works, but not more than 10 days abroad. So all my life I was there in Skopje, and I was asking the same question. So when you are going in some mobility, if the general conditions are not developing well, or even worse when they are deteriorating, then it's really nightmare for us. So if you don't have a proper educational system, if you don't have a proper health system, then you are suffering. However, you might think that you are privileged in society. But then, for the common people, we are, let's say, all struggling when the system is not functioning. But in order to function, we have to let the system function. So sometimes we come back to the very roots, what a better society means. So if there is an order in applying for a passport or a driving license or visiting a doctor, we should believe in this system. If everyone will try to make a call and make an appointment outside of the system, can I get a quick access? Then we are destroying this system. It's not working. Then it's nightmare for everywhere. If we don't have a proper education and if you don't have a proper teach work for everyone, then it's bad. It's bad for everyone. So there are no circles or balloons of privileges for one or the other. So the idea is to understand that and then to really steadily and activistically working on that. And on that we shouldn't make compromises. We should have deeper understanding. We should have a lot of patience while changing our society, but we must be persistent. We cannot say, we stop here, because, well, then this is the whole society, how it is going on. When 30 years ago, I was having the same dilemma. My sister, she moved to America. I decided to stay, and now we are coming back after 30 years, and we are thinking what we have gained individually or as a society in both societies. So, yeah, it's very hard answer actually.
First of all, this is the part of becoming an adult. So don't feel alone. It's the question: where do you find yourself? There are two ways. You either become part of the circle, but not in a negative way. You find your place in the circle. Where are you best? Professionally, socially. And I think now it's the age for all of you to explore, participate, engage, travel, and just see as many things as you can, and then probably among those things there will be one thing that makes a spark. Hopefully that's a professional thing that you can pursue professionally. But because many times said, I don't even know why I want to leave. And that's very, very natural. There's an urge of exploring, of trying to find something, maybe an adventure, but maybe the profession of your life. Or, for those of you that are Game of Thrones fans, you remember how she says, when I come to power, I'm going to break the wheel. Or, if you want to become a revolutionary, break the wheel, break the circle. Find a weak spot in that circle and break it. Maybe it's about activism in human rights. You'll see now how girls and women in the world are fighting, for example, for their rights in Iran and in other countries. They are trying to break the wheel, even under the most difficult conditions of an authoritarian, extremist regime. So there are many paths. The fact that all of us at a certain point are in a crossroad should not be a reason to despair. There are many paths. Paths that are calmer, that you find your place, your profession, or possibly something that you like to do, not just something that, okay, this is what everybody else is doing. I have to become a doctor in Germany, and that's it. Something that you like to do. If you want to become a doctor, fine, excellent. It's one of the best jobs in the world. Then you become part of the circle, but of a virtuous circle that gives back to society. Or if you are really unhappy with it, you find the place to break it. And this is part of the journey for all of us. I think we as a society have lost a little bit the urge to fight for all of ourselves, but we try to follow a lot of inertia. What is everybody else doing? Oh, they are going, they are leaving. I have to leave. What am I doing here? Am I stupid to be here? It's a question for all of us. Different from Robert, I spent half of my life abroad. So I'm one of these people that came back. And so these are different paths. Also, my brother left for Canada. So everybody is looking where they can realize themselves fully, potentially, professionally, as an active citizen, and trying, if possible, to find a little passion for life. That can be activism, especially when you are young, but that can also be just exploring, trying to be familiar with intercultural dialogue. There's a whole world out there, and there's nothing wrong with exploring it, but not because others are doing it, but because you find it in yourself. I think if sometimes Albanian families take a longer moment to reflect on this rather than rushing to send their kids away. This should be a personal choice and very well thought choice, actually, because it's finding the path of your life. So yeah, that's a very difficult thing, but it's a crossroad where everybody is. So at least don't feel alone in this question mark.
Thank you.
No, I live abroad in Barcelona since more than 25 years. In the beginning of the 90s, I left for Budapest. It was an opportunity that I found to live, but I needed a quiet place as a writer in order to work. Then I came back here thinking wrongly that things were improving, but then it was a big crisis that made me live with the idea that to stay in a quiet place. Then, well, I got used there and contacts with people and so on, and now it's more than 25 years I'm in Barcelona. It is because, as I said, not of being more active there, but because having a quiet place as a writer that I need, but more and more since then, because I don't only write, I do other things too. But like what I'm doing here, organizing and contributing to organize these events and publishing a magazine. So more and more I'm doing things, being there, more and more things doing related with Albania and with Western Balkans. So this has not made me be away from my native country and from the region. On the contrary, so because technical possibilities exist and the contacts exist, and so one can be here and there at the same time. This is maybe a new opportunity for the future. Now, other questions that someone might have?
So I think that like one of the biggest problems that we have as young people in Albania is that we don't trust everything in general, and this happens also because of corruption. We know that even for like a small service, you can just bribe someone and then you can get that. Even for example, COVID-19 certificates, a lot of people bought them, or I don't know, a driver's license, you can just pay, and then there's situations that people can find if you have a lot of money. And in my case, like I'm a radiology technician and I see this stuff at the hospital. Like for example, I tell people I will get your CT scan answer after 1 week, and then people are like, oh, like here's money because I know that you're saying this because you want me to throw some money at you. So it's like, how do we deal with this? And this is the reason why also in Open Balkans, like I've talked with, for example, young people from Serbia, they're very enthusiastic, but then when it comes from Albanians, we don't trust the government at all. We're like, what is this plan, or why is this so sneaky, and we don't really trust it. So how do we trust, and what is the solution? Because corruption is too deep, and I know that everywhere in the world there's corruption, but it's more with people in power. But for like in our region, corruption is accessible to every single person. Like you have the access to it. So how do we deal with that?
Two different things. Lack of trust. Lack of trust is a disease of democracy in even the best established democracies. What happened in the United States, for example, with the presidency of Donald Trump, it was primarily based on a lack of trust that citizens had that the system was working for them. So there comes a person, in my personal opinion, a populist, that makes use of the lack of trust in institutions in one of the most well-established democracies in the world. Trust in institutions is difficult to build. It requires time, and if you come from a dictatorship like Albania did, it requires even more time. Corruption. You are talking about petty corruption.
Yeah.
Petty corruption is fed from grand corruption. If people are looking at grand corruption and they're saying, hey, these people are winning millions, I'm doing little thing. For a small benefit, I'm paying it. What's wrong with it? So first, to fight corruption, you need grand examples. You need the people who do the grand corruption to be investigated and then punished. And then you create as a society the example of punity, that I can be punished for corruption. When you see that nobody gets punished but gets rewarded for it, then you have an incentive to make your life easy by doing the petty corruption. So this is a vicious circle. The grand corruption feeds the petty corruption and becomes a tradition that everything gets solved by it. Another way, the examples, and this relates to the justice system, to have a proper justice system, to do the investigation and the indictment. The second thing is to create some systems in place. They can be automated systems. For example, when you have the digital services and you eliminate some contact between people and you can get a service electronically, that can fight it to a certain degree if you do things with the systems. But that is a minor solution. The big solution stands in the fact that we should have punity. When we don't see punity, it's the human nature to try to make your life easier. It's a very basic instinct that you want to make your life easier. Why don't I pay a little bit? Look at the other people. They are doing so much and nothing is happening to them. What will happen to me? So it's very difficult, and we know that corruption and organized crime are the two major fights that we as a country, but all the region has as a problem. But don't forget, we should not have illusions that corruption doesn't exist even in the developed societies. We are neighbors to Italy, and we know also to other countries that organized crime and corruption is everywhere. What is different is how the system responds to it, how it tries to fight it, through both the justice system and through automating some services.
Well, yes, on that I can only add that however, so building the trust in the institutions of the state and fighting corruptions are the two main processes that the states are working. Still, yes, not only by your personal example, but if you ask for the polls, you will see that this percentage of trust and then the spread and awareness of corruption. So corruption is so high and the trust in society is so little. So, but however, these are processes on which we are really fighting. They are really on the agenda of the governments. But it is the social pressure to put the reforms working, to put the changes working. The big pressure by the civil society and by the citizen is the one that is actually helping to further improve the condition. So let's say now we have in our government vice Prime Minister for anti-corruption, not for doing corruption. And now we have support from the United States. Now a special team of consultants will come and help the investigation. Then also the reform of the juridical system is daily on the agenda, and also all these possible measures that are incorporated. So let's say one of the ideas was to increase, so first to form and then to increase the capacities and the criteria of the so-called anti-corruption commission, to employ independent people there, and so they should investigate cases of corruption. So this is ongoing struggle, But let's say what you can do as a citizen is to break the circle. You do not get involved in a corruption. So I was a minister. So I'm telling you, I did not I haven't done any corruption deal. I did not let's say I did not consent to any such kind of acting as a citizen. Also, whenever I do some service and ask for a service, I never ask for additional money in order, or I'm not willing to give any additional money. So even if a doctor is doing a treatment to me, I'm not saying now I'm giving you 20 euros, 100 euros for what you have done. I'm not paying for the services that I should be given as a citizen, and if somebody is asking that from me, I'm going to report it. So as a citizen, actually, when you decide not to take part in, it can always be better, but the social pressure and the NGO pressure, the civic pressure, but if you also become a member of a political party, you identify with the club of the ones that are sharing your values, and you are opposing the eventual club of those who are compromising or having opposite values or anti-values. So whether you are a citizen or in any power circle, the dilemmas are the same. It is an ethical question, not to break your code of ethics. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Hello everyone. First of all, thank you for your informative and very motivating insights on the topic. It's very relevant to us currently. Actually, I'm interested to get your perspective on what you consider we discussed different areas that governments are working currently and society is adapting during the integration process. But what do you consider the biggest obstacle or challenge, the most important aspect and challenging aspect that we should be more focused currently during the integration process for both North Macedonia and Albania, from your perspective?
So what I would say in a technical terms, the capacities of the institutions. So we have a very weak institutions which are not much capable of, let's say, taking and over going the process and actually implement the reforms. So, but then it comes again to the general conditions and not the specific. So if in the process of harmonization of the law or in the reforms you have an agenda, if you do not have an institution with the right people and the right capacities of the people who work there to implement it, if they don't have a proper working culture to do it, if you don't have technical or even digital and financial resources to do that, then you are going to face obstacles. Because of that, it's important to work on improving the capacities of the institutions. But then we, as a state, are still struggling, let's say, to have a proper recruitment of staff, to get the right people in the right places, to train them and to make them doing their work. So I would say this is a big, so the inertia of the system. So, for 30 years, when the previous system broke, we were in a way being left in a limbo. So we are in the courtyard of Europe, but then being in this courtyard, not on a very intensive track, then we lose the whole state and societal system, mechanism, organism, how to call it metaphorically. So we have a big and a great inertia in our countries. So, and this is what actually it happens to us on a daily basis. So you know how intensive and hardworking the life in European Union, in the more advanced society is. But while we are here, we are so spontaneous, we are so not caring too much, we don't work on ourselves, we don't work on our working places. So, you know, we have to, in a way, as I said before, change the logic, change the professional culture and how we understand and how we are doing things. So this is the biggest challenge. Otherwise, we can, as I said, formally pass the process. The process will be done through some reports, some documents, some laws will be accepted, but then we can still be stuck in this inertia.
I see two things. On the internal level is fight against organized crime and the influence that the money of organized crime has on political level. This is the most difficult thing, and often this fight goes on in a certain way that we don't have all the information for it. It requires the assistance of international partners, international agencies for law enforcement, and it's a fight that concerns everything: security, safety, corruption, well-being, and social standards. The second thing, on the diplomatic level, we need to continue the fight to win the heart of the European Union for the region. This has become better lately, but we need to keep the European Union engaged with our region to see what is beneficial also for them. We know what's beneficial for us, why we want to become part of the EU. We need to always keep telling them why it's beneficial for them to have us. So this is a fight of diplomacy, be it the hardcore diplomacy, also soft and cultural diplomacy. So these are two, on two fronts.
More questions?
Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. My question was about a subject or statement which isn't mentioned. It's educational system, because most of youth is going abroad for getting a better education, and they start their lives there, and so they stay there. So what are we doing, or what do we have to do to get this, to get the youth here for a better education? I don't know if I was understandable.
We mentioned some of the things already, but if we have to focus on education, I'll elaborate a little bit more. I think the universities, especially the public university here, is still to conduct a curricular reform properly, to better connect the labor market with the needs of the labor market, with what is being offered, and also to be more active to offer other things. Like universities here, I see them a little bit still with this old model, lecture, seminar. They need to make a jump into the 21st century with being much more vital, being much more connected to projects, to activities, to have career centers. This is just a simple observation. I have studied abroad, so when they are like this, maybe they will be more attractive for the students to stay here. But when they offer the same old model, then of course I would understand a young person that doesn't want to be part of it. So that's about the education system.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to add, yes, I mean, education, as I said in the beginning, is so much important, but unfortunately, as an overall system, it more or less had the fate of every other sector, let's say, of society or economy. So, in the same time, as a health system or a transportation system or leisure system or whatever, the industry system, so it more or less the same with the education. So instead of increasing the criteria and following the criteria, we had, let's say, at least in Macedonia, the atomization of the universities. So not only that the first two public universities had struggled to maintain the quality of the professors, the financial means, then the curricula, etc. But instead of that, we formed 20-25 more faculties, universities, private, mixed, new state, new public universities, so that actually we create quantity instead of quality, so that now education is not even good to the people from academia, and not to speak about the students and what services they provide and how they provide. But there is no other path than actually hard reforms, and then, you know, I myself, I'm not a member of the academia, but I have always want to say that I was intellectual or knowledgeable person. So, let's say, even the most knowledgeable person, they have to ask the basic question that every person which is working in a publishing house or in a small shop or in a mechanics shop have to do themselves. How can we be better, and how can we provide better services for our clients? And our clients are, of course, the most vulnerable part of the society, the young people and the students. So that here I would see that again, what can be better is cooperation and even merging with foreign universities, because the standards of what is in the educational field in Europe and in the world and in the Balkans are so different, and the gap is increasing. So this is also a very worrisome aspect of our society.
Thank you. Sorry, can I make the last question?
Again, please.
First of all, thank you for your wise advices. It was wonderful being back here today. What I wanted to ask was related to the Open Balkan initiative. I know it's a great initiative. It gives us a lot of facilities as students, as travelers. I was living in Belgrade, and it was something fantastic to travel to Belgrade without having the need of a passport. But I wanted to know more about the economical benefits that Albania and North Macedonia will take from this initiative, because as we know, Serbia is way more powerful. It's almost as powerful as North Macedonia and Albania taken together. So I want to know more in this aspect. Thank you.
So as any new initiative, this is a work in progress. This is ongoing now. The state ministries, the state agencies from the three countries are actually looking for ideas. They are consulting among themselves. They are consulting with the stakeholders. What can they offer to the citizens in order to work better? So that there is many things ongoing on the place. So let's say one big initiative is that the transportation systems should work faster, and this is what these prime ministers, when they met in Ohrid, and I was attending that conference, spoke about in their speeches. So when you have your wonderful Mediterranean fruits or vegetables, or I don't know, the seafood coming from Albania, that can easily reach markets in Belgrade, in inner Serbia, even in Vojvodina, so that people can enjoy that and consume. And let's say this is one of the possible benefits. Or, when the wine industry in Macedonia should find their place everywhere. And then again, I think that opportunities will be given, but if you have a quality And if you have a service or product to offer, then let's say you can benefit out of it. And this is why I don't believe that it can only be beneficial for the biggest, but also for the smallest. So I also attended this food and wine fair in Belgrade, and as I said, the most benefiting of that was Macedonian wine industry, because it offered a wide range of very high quality wines. So this is growing industry as well in Serbia, but still, let's say Macedonia is the brand. So then, if we say that the cheese industry, then again, is best in Macedonia, or maybe it is best in North Albania, then it can find the let's say the market. So for me, first is the quality, and then we will see. But imagine what the Serbian citizens are of for the tourist industry. So mainly they are going in Greece, and they are really a nice share of the Greece product. Imagine if they direct themselves to the Albanian shore, which everyone said is beautiful and has what to offer, but still we need to increase the capacity. So actually it is that Serbia is a big market, but then of course we want to see easing of the regulation. But for that we need a good highways, a good ways of travel. We have a good connections. But let's say then the existence of Air Serbia that has flights to Tirana, to Skopje, or to Sarajevo are also beneficial. So yes, the air industry is focused and concentrated in Serbia, but then it serves all the citizens. So I believe this would be like that. So the idea is to ease the market regulation, to make the transportation fast, then as they said, to create the free movement not only of goods but of the human capital. So not only that you are trained at universities equally, but you can work. So if you are a hotelier that has experience or has studied in Albania, you can easily work in Macedonians or in Serbian hotels. So basically this all is about to create a kind or similar to single market, which then would ease our integration when we once become a member of the European Union. And as you can see, let's say from the experience of Brexit, this is the reality when you have a society advance and you have this relationship. If they break it, then economy suffers, citizens suffers, and things like that. But then when you integrate, the benefits go to the wider population, the wider society.
Very briefly, in an open global economy, the ones that are smaller and don't have competitive advantage will always be in the deficit. Do you think that Albania benefits from the trade with Italy? Our exports are much less than our imports. So the argument cannot be this. It's an open economy, we don't have a protectionist economy. We are open to the market, so we are open to the competition, which means we are open to potential losses. The other way is to be isolated, so the economic argument cannot stand. But I wouldn't call Open Balkans great yet. We have to see and be very cautious how this will be in the future, how it will interact with the Berlin process, how it will affect relationship with other countries. So in terms of economic exchanges, there are also other platforms such as CEFTA and others that were realizing this. Exchange and knowing each other is always good. We have to see and monitor and evaluate whether the achievements will be real. But the economic argument that somebody is bigger and more powerful, well, a lot of other countries are bigger, more powerful, and their economies are better. It's up to us to find our competitive advantage. It can be tourism. It can be. But there's a lot to be done in that.
question? One more question? Okay.
Hello, and thank you for being here and for your speeches. Very great panel. As we all know, the influence, or let's say what is happening around Europe with Russia's war and all the effect that it brought in the economy and of course the market, the financial market and the commercial ones. We have talked about this platform Open Balkan, and as we know that one of the countries who is part of the Open Balkans, such as Serbia, did not took, let's say, such huge response or restrictions towards Russia and what is happening. So I would like to know from your perspective, how do you judge this situation? Would it affect the Open Balkan structure and furthermore the integration of Albania and North Macedonia in the EU?
I judge it very negatively that Serbia, an EU candidate country, chooses not to align its foreign policy with that of the European Union. There is a resolution from the European Parliament where more than 500 members of the European Parliament have asked the European Commission and the European Council to stop and not progress anymore with the process of negotiations until the country chooses to impose sanctions. It's a very important, this is about values. When you want to become part of the club, you have to dress like the club tells you to dress. If you want to become a tennis club or any club, this is a club, it has rules. Common security and foreign policy says that if the European Union imposes sanctions, you impose sanctions. We will see now whether really the process will stop, like the European Parliament has asked to, or a kind of negotiated solution will be found. Because there is also the other risk of backlash, that you alienate the country so much that they choose the other side. That's why diplomacy is always about trying to find something in the middle. As far as its impact on the Open Balkans is, they have chosen to treat Open Balkans as an economic project, so kind of immune from these things. But I have studied political science, so for me everything is political, even the things which are economic. So we cannot deny the impact. The Serbian politics and society has always to make a choice. Are they for the club or not? And it is a difficult process, and they have to make the choice. We'll see now if the Commission will squeeze their opportunity and their time to make the choice or not. But yes, this is an important thing.
Well, I can only add that we as neighbors and friends to Serbia, we can only encourage Serbia to stay steadily on their way for becoming member of the European Union, because they share the European values, and this is what the society likes and the citizens of Serbia. So we only encourage them, and we are ready to work with them so that they keep on the path, and of course then respecting everything which is staying or coming with that path, because no other alliance is possible, but it is not something which the citizens want. Yeah. So on this, we, as I said, only send words, but also we are ready to work together on encouragement. And on the other side, Open Balkan is at the very beginning just one of the initiatives, is mainly, as we said, grassroots based, which means it came from the countries, but it is not a political alliance, and that was clearly made by everyone, and this is also what our partners accepted it, not as a political process, but as a process of economic advancement, and like this, it is not dealing with the political issues, but of course establishing good neighboring relation and then supporting each other on the path, but on is very important, so that, let's say, we the people from the Balkans not only encourage Serbia, we encourage Hungary, we encourage every European country to stay together and to fight for democracy and respect of human rights and international order. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Now, I was told that someone who represents the students, the International Association of Students of Economic Science and Commerce, would like to say some words on behalf of this partner organization of ours. I don't know who is in charge of this. You, before you to give the floor to her, let me say that the next panel discussion, which will be online, will be on January 15th, which is Sunday. The hour is not yet decided, and the subject will be environment defense and youth activism. We will inform you on time about the hour. Thank you very much for coming here. Thank you for the intelligent questions and the interesting questions that you made. And this was a very very interesting, this part, and very thought-provoking, this dialogue. I'm really glad about it, and also I thank both panelists for their interventions, Alba and Robert. So now I give the floor to the person who represents the Students Association. So,
So, hello everyone. Well, we came from the organization ISEC, which most of you are even part of. And I wanted to start my speech with a short history part about ISEC. Everything started 75 years ago, after the Second World War. And we started as a small organization with only 7 countries, 215 members, and 89 exchanges. And now, in 2022, we operate in more than 120 countries with more than 1 million exchanges and a number of 38,000 of membership in all over the world, which is something very huge. And something that we do is that we develop leadership all over the world. This is our mission, our core, our essence. And we develop the leadership through student exchange programs like internship, volunteer and teaching programs. The core essence of the organizations come from the will to develop cross-cultural understanding. It is a pleasure for me and for us to represent ISEC and the youth leadership of Albania here at this prestigious occasion. You need to know that ISEC is the world's largest youth-run organization, and we have a mission, as I mentioned before. We strive for peace and fulfillment of all humankind's potential. We believe that leadership is the fundamental solution and it can be developed in anyone and anywhere. We empower young people to become value-driven leaders who positively impact the world around them. That's why we are here today. The Bridge Forum is one project that we strongly believe that has a huge impact on the young and future leaders of Albania.
European and regional integration comes as part of this understanding. As youth, it is important for us to be aware of what it takes for European and regional integration, and that we are the future leaders of our nation. I would like to thank you, the speakers that present today, and our esteemed guests. I would like to thank you, all of you, for your attention and listening so passionately. I would also like to recommend that we act with knowledge and that we, as the future leaders, will be able to contribute to cross-cultural understanding of countries and nations all across the globe, and we make Albania proud. With that said, we hope as ISAC that, and as one of the organizers of today's forum, that each of you will be able to make the best of this occasion and learn something from our esteemed speakers, Mr. Bashkim Shehu, Mrs. Albacela, and Mr. Robert Alajowski, sorry for the pronunciation. I would also like to make a special thanks to LPA, to the Bridge Forum, and to organizers from ISAC, Armand Dumeri, Mailinda Bayrami, and Emily Pucci. Thank you.
So, to close this session, I want once again to thank the Center for Openness and Dialogue, which created us the opportunity to gather here and to have this meeting with you. Thank you.